Everyone, Audi 555 here. So I've just got a little update. Let me just turn this air off. A little update with the balance beads. So the balance beads, although during my test ride were perfect and I've never felt something so smooth in my life, the road itself was a little bit bumpy. It wasn't one of those really smooth roads. Then traveling at 60 kilometers on a slightly bumpy road, you don't notice it. But the issue was, when I'm riding at 60 kilometers an hour on a really smooth flat road, there's a bit of a bounce happening in the rear because the weight of the balance beads was a little bit too much. I've used the whole 60 grams for my tyre, which is a 160 width, and it's probably too much. So I'm in the process now of taking the balance beads out, then I'll rebead the tyre, and then when I add the balance beads, I'll only add them in small increments just to see how it rides. And if it still needs more, I'll then add more. It's easier that way because, as you're about to see, it's a bit of a process to take the balance beads out of the tyre. This is 60 grams and I've got most of it here in the tyre and in this container. There's maybe 5 grams that have spilled out on the floor, so it's not a clean job. And I also noticed that there's a mixture of glass ones and then these black ones. I don't know if the black ones have a different weight to them or something, but you know, it's very dynamic. I think if I had like a little shop vac or something, this would be a really easy process, but pulling them out by hand is very tedious, and I'm doing it this way because I want to reuse these. They haven't really had that much miles on them, so they're still in perfect nick. You know, it's typical fashion, brand new tyre, and let me just turn this light on. I'm actually pulling these out and I notice there's something sticking me, and right here there is a nail in my brand new tyre. It's always the case, isn't it? You only get a nail in your tyre if it's brand new. Just getting the last few of them. It's easy just to stick your hand in and they stick to you and then you just pull them out. It's a really easy method. I'm going to call it the Audi sticky finger method. Well, maybe not. The other half of that nail, it's only like a pin. I'm really going to regret it, but I'm just going to pull the nail out. And I'm going to regret it because it's going to have a slow leak in the tyre. But it can't stay in there. It's got to come out. This is the culprit. Look at that. What a hassle. Just because some tradie didn't clean up their job properly. The best tyre lube when you don't have tyre lube is WD-40. Don't care what anyone says, this thing works great and it evaporates out of the tyre. So always use that if you don't have tyre lube. It's better than using soapy water because that sits in your rim, doesn't evaporate and rusts your rim. That's my 2 cents. Now that's on there, now I've just got to lube it up again and then rebead it. No, I should have left that nail in. I'm going to have to plug it. Give one of these a crack. These are from Temu, pretty cheap. The pink one is smaller and the clear one is larger, and they're just basically a rubber screw that you screw into the hole and it plugs your tyre. Maybe. We'll see. Actually, it is a screw. It's a metal screw with some sort of silicone on the outside of it. Jeez. You just literally screw it in. So I'm just trying to screw that in. It's obviously, probably should let the air pressure out first, but I was just seeing what that would be like. Like, it's holding it with me pushing down. This may actually work. Alright, tyre deflated. Let's screw this in. So this is just screwed the screw in the hole, and it's time to inflate it to see if it actually holds. Inflated at 40 psi and no hissing coming out of that screw. Lovely, actually worked. Just got to rub the WD-40 off with a rag, make sure you don't slide off your bike. When you bead a new tyre, or any tyre I should say, this is something that motorcycle mechanics don't bother to do these days. Well, elite motorcycles I will blame for this. But they don't actually check to see if the tyre is seated on the rim. So you can see here, that's pretty close to being fully seated. When they beaded the tyre originally, you can see this darker line up the top. One half of the tyre went down all the way down to the inside the rim for about a section about this large of a tyre. Really noticeable, and it was inside the tyre, so not beaded straight. So when you wobble this, or spin this I should say, you'll probably get a little bit of manufacturer's wobble. You can see there's really not much, but when I spun the wheel after the professionals at Elite Motorcycles did it, it was bouncing up and down, and it was just ridiculous. It's like they had never put on a wheel before. But anyway, I'm going to balance this with weights, and then if I can't get it balanced, then I'm going to put the beads back in, but not all the beads at once. But yeah, we'll put these aside for now, and we'll come back to them another day. Soapy water here to spray on that, and yeah, you can see it's done its job. It's not appearing to be leaking with any air coming out. You'd notice a lot of bubbles coming out of that if it was leaking, so that worked fine. Be whinging about Elite Motorcycles. They thought it would be a great idea to put the balance weight right on the edge of the rim as well. That's not how you balance a wheel. You put it in the middle of the rim, not on the edge. I just didn't understand it. Alright, so that's the light spot. So I need to put weights on there and then confirm it. So I've got 40 grams here, so it's 10, 20, 30, and 35, 40 grams. Maybe a little bit heavy. Let's see. We'll take, oh no, that seems to be pretty good. I'll take 5 grams off to see if it makes much of a difference. But I'm thinking 40 grams is probably it. Now to make it look like I'm going to track day, I'm just going to tape them down. And it's back on now, so I won't know until I actually go for a test ride to see if my home balancing job actually did the trick. But it's looking promising so far.
This, my friends, is a cane toad. Get out of the road, mate. All things have a right to live, so I'm not going to run the thing over, but, you know, for the viewers out there that have not seen a cane toad, you've now seen one. Now, it is pitch black here at night. I'm in the middle of, well, almost nowhere, and I'm riding the bike, and it is raining, and hopefully this has got all of the rain off of the lens, but it probably doesn't. But anyway, let's go for a bit more of a ride into the light. So far, the weight is really good. It's doing a great job, and I've actually balanced the wheel perfectly from what I can see. But I'm running into the same issue as last time, where I'm just doing a test ride at 60 kilometers an hour on bumpy roads. So I need to go back to that really smooth road to see if it feels bouncy again. So far so good. This looks like a relatively new road here, and I'm not getting any wobble or anything on the rear. I'm feeling like the rear is doing an exceptional job. It's well balanced now. using WD-40 to pop that tyre on is a game changer, because I've previously used soap and water, but by spraying the WD-40 on the tyre, it makes it super slippery and it just beads perfectly. I did inflate the tyre to 60 psi when beading it, and what that does is puts the extra pressure inside the tyre, so that way it sits nice and straight in the bead, so it's not going to be off center, and it makes it so much better to ride. Obviously you don't ride with 60 psi, you deflate it. I'm down at 36 psi, which is, you know, it's pretty good for the rear. It's probably the best pressure to have that tyre at, and because it's been seated correctly on the tyre, it makes a massive difference. And obviously putting the weight on there, balancing it correctly is definitely going to make it smooth. So balance beads, do I still recommend them? I would have to say yes, I absolutely do recommend them, but I don't recommend putting all of the balance beads in your rim. I really only needed 40 grams of weight, but I put in 60 grams of balance beads to balance my tyre. Obviously I've reseated the tyre and it's in a different spot, so maybe the weight wouldn't be the same, but I'm pretty sure, going off memory, when I originally balanced it, it was 40 grams as well. So that to me says the tyre is pretty much well balanced itself. It is the rim that I'm offsetting the 40 grams to. I also do have the TMPS valve cap, which has a battery inside it and it's metal, so it weighs a bit of weight and it throws off the wheel. But I wouldn't recommend putting all the beads in, and if you have done it yourself and you put all of the beads in, can you leave a comment if it actually worked out well for you, or if you found it a little bit bouncy? You know, for me it was at 60 kilometers an hour on a smooth road. I could certainly notice it, but maybe different bikes have that different bounce factor. But it frustrates me a little bit that I made a video for you all to watch and get some information out of, only to follow up that video with this video to say don't do what I did in that first video. But to summarize, I do recommend using the balance beads. They seem to be pretty good, but I don't recommend putting the entire balance bead bag in. For me it was 2 ounces or 60 grams in my 160 tyre, because it just was too much. So I'd probably put half the bag in, give that a go for a ride, see if it's still a bit bouncy, and if it is, put half of whatever's left over in. So that way you're incrementally getting more weight in there, but not too much, because it is a pain in the ass to then take your tyre off to then take the weight out. So it's easier to put the weight in than it is to take it out. Yeah, so riding along here, I would certainly feel the road bouncing, and I'm not getting any of that. So my wheel is balanced with the static weights, no balance beads in the rear, and you know, I've got no complaints there. If I was to do this again, and I apologise for doing the balance bead video without giving you the full facts, but I didn't know them at the time, but if I was to do the balance beads again, I would only put half the balance beads in first and then go for a test ride. If it still was out of whack, then put half of whatever was left in, and it should be good, I think, with a 160 tyre. I feel like 60 grams into 160 tyre is too much. You probably only really need 50 grams. Just want to say that that plug on the rear has done an exceptional job. I've been riding around and I haven't lost any PSI. The tyre's warmed up and, you know, it hasn't changed. Maybe it's got a slow leak, but at this stage I would say it doesn't. So that screw-in plug from Temu, it was amazing. They're only a couple of bucks and you get so many of them. So I recommend them for now. We'll see how long it lasts though. But yeah, that's how I'd do a tyre. Static balancer. So I'm still happy with the static balance for it for now, but if the weights come off, or if the wheel somehow shifts on there from having too much WD-40, I'll then roll back to the balance speeds. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. It's a phenomenal job. It's been pretty fantastic to do that to the bike and be able to get that done. Well, anyway, I'm going to go back home now, get in out of this wet, cold, miserable weather, and as usual, keep safe out there on the road, stay on two wheels and not on your head, and I'll see you all next time. Laters.